Welcome to the Daily Objective. It is day 28 of this war. It is 4 weeks since Hamas committed the atrocities against Israel, and Israel has declared that it is at war. We've been seeing some of that, nowhere near as much as we would like to, but we will get to that. We will get today to Owen Jones. I'm gonna get to why we're doing this episode about Owen Jones, and I'm sure some people will be unhappy, but that's what we're here for. And before that, we get to some news updates. Israeli soldiers are dying daily in the ground operation in Gaza. The latest number I saw is 24. Of course, they only announce it in Israel after when it's a soldier, after they notify the family. In many cases, for whatever religious reason in Judaism, you have to have a body or parts of it for proper burial, which is why in the past Israel has released living terrorists in exchange for dead bodies. Now they do whatever they can to get soldiers out, even if they are no longer alive. And yeah, so the IDF releases information when it does, not necessarily immediately as it happens. Um, there was the Nasrallah speech. The head of Hezbollah was has been promoting for days the fact that he is going to be giving the speech on Friday. I think his speech probably disappointed supporters of terrorism and terrorists worldwide. I haven't seen Owen Jones tweet about the particular speech and his disappointment of it, but we'll see. Maybe I missed something. We'll get to him in a moment. But Nasrallah said this is 100% a Palestinian issue, this war. Many were thinking, is this the moment where Lebanon or Hezbollah fully enters the war from Lebanon? It is not, at least not, in terms of if the speech is going to be believed. Of course, as we said yesterday, Hezbollah does not, Hezbollah, Hamas, Hamas did not announce their October 7th attack. They just did it. Israel, in its defense, does things differently. So we talked about this press conference last week where they said that, they showed proof of Hamas headquarters being under the Shifa hospital, where there are also reports that there are many explosives under that hospital. Hamas knows what they want. We've said it before. The only thing they love more than dead Israeli children is dead Palestinian children, because they're useful idiots in the West will rise up over any such images, particularly if they're real, but certainly we've seen they don't actually let the facts get in their way when when they show their outrage. So just an hour ago or less than that, I saw reports on Israeli television that the IDF is closing in on Shifa Hospital, that hospital where Hamas headquarters are. This is I don't understand why you need to report that. I don't understand. Like nobody in it. Does anybody in Israel think that Hamas's leadership will not move no matter what? I mean, they're hiding all the time. If they had some notion of bravery that involves standing up in front of a tank, as as actual brave people have done, they would not be underground in the first place, and they would not be under a hospital. So, yeah, Hamas will, they don't have, they're not short on tunnels. Israel will close in, will eventually get there. Hamas will be gone, but the press will be there, or whoever on behalf of the press, to show again the useful idiots in the West, to show them that, look, Israel is attacking a hospital. This is what the Zionists do. They attack hospitals. Yeah, and this is the kind of propaganda that we have to deal with. This is the reason why you have many thousands of people in the streets protesting in support of Hamas. whatever they say, we'll get to it. It is in support of Hamas. Uh, and Yeah, this is why you have a massive rise in anti-Semitic attacks. So, uh, Owen Jones. Owen Jones, you know who he is if you're British. I know most of our audience isn't British, but I'm sure we've spoken about him on the channel before. I don't know if we've ever dedicated an episode to him. This might be the first time we've done that. But yeah, he's a very famous left-wing commentator in the UK. He is he still with the Guardian, Morgan? I don't follow his career closely enough. He is still with the Guardian, right?
He is, yeah. He used to write for the Independent, but he's one of the flagship journalists for the Guardian now.
Yeah. And he was a massive Jeremy Corbyn supporter. He is, of course, a critic of the current leader of the Labour Party. For reasons we might get into on this episode. So I've said from the start of this war, I'm not going to go to Israel and fight this war. I said, I think when I said it, I said the only type of fighting I would do is if they want me to press a button, I can go to Israel and do that. Other than that, I'm not going to fight that war. We are going to use whatever resources we have at our disposal that don't involve us risking our lives for, in order to protect Palestinian civilians, which is this YouTube channel, and it's my Twitter. So I replied to one of Owen Jones's tweets. I quote tweeted him. He replied to me. Now he has a million followers, so his army, of trolls came at me. By the way, I don't blame Owen Jones for the trolls. He has his own trolls, who I'm sure think they're doing the right thing by their ad hominems or threats. uh, I blame him for the very bad ideas he holds and promotes. I don't think he necessarily agrees with the specific way his audience trolls people like me. But yeah, I thought, at the risk of being uh, super cringe or whatever, we are going to do a whole episode talking about this, although about a third of the episode was me talking about, like introducing it. So we have not a whole episode. But Morgan, I do want to go to you for generally maybe introduce Owen Jones a little bit to our audience, since most of our audience is in the US and most of the rest are also not in the UK. And then your thoughts about just these few tweets between me and Owen Jones, and then we'll get to the question and the title of today's episode.
So Owen Jones, for people who aren't in the UK, Razi, you did actually a fairly good job of introducing. He's a very popular voice on the left. I'd even go as far to say he's probably, if not the number one, he's one of the leading journalistic voices on the left in the UK. Like his popularity is huge. As I said, he used to write for the Independent. Now he's mainly writing for the Guardian. He has a popular YouTube channel as well, which there's a video that he tweeted actually, which is very relevant for the exchange you guys had. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But he's hugely popular, especially amongst young people. He came to prominence. I sort of remember him about 10 years ago, 2012, 2013 was kind of when he first started becoming like properly mainstream famous. His career obviously began before that, and then he came to prominence surrounding Jeremy Corbyn. So he was initially very supportive of Corbyn. Corbyn for him was a return to principle, was a return to consistency, to kind of true socialism. And he's not, Owen Jones isn't shallow per se. So he didn't dogmatically just defend Corbyn no matter what. He did assess that he thought Corbyn wouldn't necessarily be a successful candidate, and came out actually criticized Corbyn, not for holding any bad ideas, not for things to do with anti-Semitism, but because Corbyn wouldn't be an effective leader of the party. So, but there's, there's an inch of depth compared to a centimeter, perhaps. And for the last few years, he's branded himself more as a kind of alternative kind of voice in the media. So he goes around at the Labour conference. Last year I saw this. I didn't see what he did at the Labour conference this year. And he hounds MPs just as he does at the Conservative conference, actually. And they all hate to see him, whether they're Tory MPs or Labour MPs, because he's really irritating. And to be fair to him, what he's doing is he's criticising the politicians, at least in the Labour Party, for not being principled enough, which, even if it's the wrong principles, it's, I guess, nice to see people criticising MPs for not being principled enough. But it's funny to see the Labour front benches squirming and writhing and wishing they couldn't be around him because he's unbearable to be around, and even they don't like him. So he's kind of acquired in some way a kind of alternative kind of atmosphere to his work. So that's who Owen Jones is, and has been a very prominent supporter of Palestine uh, during his career as well, and ultimately a supporter of Hamas, which is going to connect to that video that I mentioned before. But that's who Owen Jones is. He's significant, he's influential, and he's very left wing.
Yeah. Now, he took issue with me. So, by the way, Daniel, if you want to put, I don't know if you want to put a link to the tweet. There were a few tweets there. You can also put just a link to my Twitter. It's one of the recent tweets, or a couple of the recent tweets. But maybe I should just read it out. So, yeah, he had this video, and then he tweeted about it, and he says the interview with a Hamas official threatening to repeat the 7th of October atrocity is going viral. We spoke about this video yesterday, right? This is a video where Hamas's spokesperson says we're going to do this again and again, and the goal is to annihilate Israel. And again, this is not news about Hamas for anybody who saw it. So he says it's going viral. And then he says it's being used to justify opposing a ceasefire and continuing Israel's mass slaughter. Here's why this is a nonsense on every level. And then he shares a link. He shows the video as well. He shares a link to his own YouTube video, which is 20 minutes long. I saw that Bonnie, thank you for the super chat, by the way, Bonnie. Bonnie said, I tried to listen to him, but it's like Tucker Carlson. I can't. So the comparison to Tucker Carlson is interesting, and maybe we'll do an episode on that at some point. It's the same in the sense that he's difficult to listen to. And on that, I'll agree with you. They're very different types of bad, and yeah, I think it would require a whole episode to try to figure out who is worse, because again, they're different types of bad, but. Yeah, I quote tweeted that. I said, didn't take long for Owen Jones to come to the defense of the Hamas spokesman who said they would repeat October 7th again and again until they annihilate Israel. What are friends for? Owen Jones didn't like that. His favorite politician or favorite party leader in recent years, Jeremy Corbyn, actually referred to Hamas on video. That you can find this as friends. Owen Jones may not have done that, in so many words, and he took issue with me saying what I said, and he then quote tweeted me. He said, "This is one of the many problems with trying to debate apologists for Israel's onslaught. Nowhere in either my tweet or video did I defend this Hamas official. As you can see in the tweet itself, I referred to October 7th as an atrocity, which it is." So, and if you look at the trolls, by the way, there's different type of trolls. It's mostly most of the comments. Again, Owen Jones is not directly responsible for what these people say. Most of them, they call me names, they call me a Nazi. And a few of them said I had a small head, which the picture on my Twitter is from is an old picture when I was generally slimmer than I am today, and I think the head was as well. But you're not a Seinfeld fan, Morgan, I think, right? So you haven't seen the episode where Elaine boyfriend breaks up with her or somebody she's seeing, and he calls her big head, and she thinks, okay, what's the big deal? And then she goes through her days, and birds start hitting her in the head, and so maybe Owen Jones's fans are the calling the universe to punish me in different ways. This might be one of them, but other things people said, like one of the ideas was that he should sue me, and people offered legal advice. I don't know if that's coming. That will maybe mean that this is the only time we can talk about it on the air. But what does it mean? What does it mean to support Hamas? Do you have to actually say I support Hamas? Do you have to wave their flag? So, for example, the protests that we see in London, when we see thousands of people and they don't use Hamas flags, right? They use PLO flag, the flags of the other terrorist organization, which is now widely considered to be the flag of Palestine, a non-country that they want to turn into a country. But there is a war that Hamas started 4 weeks ago against Israel. They attacked, and they are now on the defensive. Israel is, fighting, just going out there to find Hamas tunnels, Hamas, ammunition warehouses, Hamas leaders, Hamas terrorists. They actually have a one of the parts of the mission is to find the people who you can see on those videos from those atrocities when they live stream themselves. That's part of the Israel's mission in Gaza. So if you are going out on the street during a war to support, clearly one side, and you're not saying, well, this is the side I support. Again, Hamas is the Palestinian government in Gaza. So, you know, just taking the side that is against Israel is taking the side that is against Israel. The side that's fighting Israel is Hamas. Morgan, your thoughts on that, and then I want to talk about the ceasefire idea.
Well, so I watched that 20-minute video, which is I think the one Bonnie was struggling to watch. And what's telling about it, or put it this way, evil people can't really admit to themselves that they're evil. So they have to dodge at some point. They have to evade evade reality so that it doesn't stick home. And if you watch Owen Jones speak about this, he's pretty good in acknowledging. So he said something like, the people who are refusing a ceasefire are supporting what Israel is doing. And yes, that is true. By refusing a ceasefire, I am supporting Israel continuing what it's doing. And he also acknowledged the point that if you were to have a ceasefire, it would allow Hamas to regroup, to reorganize, and to do this again. And that's when he starts to dodge. That's when he starts evading and waving things away and pretending it's not real, because that's a very serious issue. And that's the history of this conflict. That's what's happened time and time again. And then he waves that away because he says, oh, what actually happened on October 7th was an Israeli intelligence failure, which is true. That did happen. And he said, but now they're going to be so shocked by that. They're going to have security at the border. So Hamas is never going to be able to realistically attack Israel again. Obviously not true. Obviously nonsense. It's evading the identity of the entity which is acting, which is Hamas. And they act in a certain way, which is that they want to kill Israel. They want to kill Israelis. They want to destroy Israel. That's in their charter. That's what they do. That's what they say. Go listen to the son of the founder of Hamas. He's very articulate about this. So I think Owen Jones is a really bad guy, and you can see the evidence of the immorality there. Now he's posing morally. He's saying that there's moral hypocrisy here, logically nonsense or something phrase like that he used about a pro-Israeli argument. But go watch that video and see the point in which he has to start hand waving and pretending like the fact that Hamas is not going to regroup is a serious threat, because of course they are, if that's what you have in a ceasefire. And if he were to be honest, he should just say, yes, I want to allow that because I want to save civilian lives. That would be a much more honest way to state his position. And then we could have a discussion about, well, then you're actually harming them, aren't you, in the long term? Because more of them will die, because Israel should be able to defend itself, because what happened to Israel is an atrocity, as you yourself, Owen, have said. And then we could have an honest conversation. But you can't have that conversation, because there's no way he could admit to himself that what he wants is that what he is actually on the side of Hamas, continuing to do what it's doing. So then there you go.
So, Andrew Breitbart, the late Andrew Breitbart, who, the website Breitbart is, he founded it. I don't think he would approve of the direction it took after his death, but he himself was an interesting guy. And I think this was him. I could be confusing him with somebody. I think he used to retweet all the hate tweets that he got. I'm not a fan of that idea. I'm not a fan of giving these people a platform. Don't feed the troll is a very good principle to have in life. But I am now going to read a few tweets because I have a point about it. So this is some of the replies, and again, there are many. I don't know how many replies there are to this, but it's in the dozens at the very least. So Razi is a terrorist supporter, a terrorist Zionist. He enjoys genocide and would love to be named as a war criminal. These are just basic facts. Um, Desperate from a race baiter. Everyone can see your lies, Razi. Uh, there was another one that I really wanted to read, but I can't find it. But that's and again, there are people calling me a Nazi. There's oh, this is the one. I would do what Hamas did if my country was brutally occupied and my people were being killed daily, just for being a different race and religion.
As if that's what's going on. And is that guy? So is he saying that he would rampage through and rape people and drag that girl's corpse through the street, and so they only found her skull? Is that what he's saying?
I don't know how this could be read any other way. Yeah, that's how I see it. Because this is, I would do what Hamas did means I would do, the things specifically that Hamas did on October 7th. It's not I would tell the world that I'm a humanitarian and release a hostage. That's not what he's talking about when he says I would do what Hamas did. Now, these people don't have the intelligence and skill of Owen Jones. Owen Jones is a very intelligent man. He knows what he's doing. He knows, even when one of the videos I saw some of on his Twitter was him, using the word genocide, as many people do, as people did at me in the replies here. But he does it, with he's reading the stuff that this UN guy who resigned said in his, and he says like, a word like he prefaces it with a word like genocide shouldn't be thrown around and so on. But if the experts say it, and then he reads one of the experts, somebody who works at the UN, although used to, and the I guess Israeli lobby, the very strong Israeli lobby as we know it in the UN, managed to get rid of him. So yeah, there are ways in which these people, the intelligent people on that side, the intellectuals, the propagandists, twist this in a way that the those who follow, the masses on the streets, the masses without their names or pictures, so we can see the size of their heads on Twitter. They he knows how it's gonna what kind of a reaction it's gonna get. And so the use of the word genocide we've talked about and we'll talk about again, I'm sure. I talked about it to Harry Binswanger on HBTV on Wednesday. I recommend watching that. But the word ceasefire sounds so nice, Morgan. Enough with the violence, enough with the killing, right? That's what the ceasefire is. How can you call yourself a decent human being and be against the ceasefire? You know, this is what these people say. How can you call it? Which it's very simple, and you add some pictures of destruction of you know buildings that were that are all that's left is rubble, images of dead bodies. Who can be against that? And yeah, I do you want to answer who can be against that? Because I have my own answer, and I think it might be similar to yours, but let's hear yours first.
I think the person who could be against that is a thinking person who understands that Hamas will continue to act in the way that they do, and that necessitates force. That this isn't something that you could actually get around the table and settle. That Hamas exists on a premise of violence, and so the war is ongoing. Even if you declare a ceasefire for a certain amount of time, a state of hostility will always exist, and this will happen at some point. It's a question of, does it happen now, or does it happen in the future? And more people are killed. And if you're seriously on the side of killing fewer people, which is the appropriate, you should want fewer people to die because there will be innocent people who die, then you should want it over with now, and you should want Hamas gone. And you shouldn't apologize for them. You shouldn't equivocate. You shouldn't rationalize, which is what Owen Jones is doing. He rationalizes things away. He equivocates between Israel and Hamas. Whenever people are talking about the atrocities of Hamas. He says, yes, it's an atrocity what happened to Israel, but Israel is doing atrocities as well. Completely not true. Defending yourself is not an atrocity. It's especially not an atrocity to kill civilians when they're being held as human shields, which is what Hamas is doing. And there's no way to get around that. He's intelligent enough to make the claim that by not supporting a ceasefire, you're supporting Israel to continue what it's doing, which is true. And he's intelligent enough then to know that by supporting a ceasefire, you're supporting Hamas continuing what it's doing. So he knows. He ultimately knows. He can't fully admit it to himself because you can ultimately never do that and maintain that position. But deep down, he knows.
Yeah, Hamas exists in order to eliminate the state of Israel, eliminated by not by UN vote, but by mass murder of all the Jews who live there. And as we've seen, they don't spare non-Jews, but the goal is to get rid of the Jews, to get rid of the Jewish state. That's what Hamas exists for. That's what Hamas does whenever they believe they can do it successfully. So October 7th, they did it more successfully than they had ever done it before. And they killed more Israelis. They took more hostages in one day than I think they took in their definitely took more hostages than they took in their entire existence. And then people are calling for a ceasefire. What that means is now that Hamas has done their thing, they are, they're taking time off until they can regroup, until they can do it again. They're holding the hostages. Now we have to stop any type of fire. Now, the calls for a ceasefire are only calls for Israel to stop defending itself. It's not a call. It's not, Hamas is not the target of these calls. Israel is the target of these calls. So, yes, these are absolutely calls against Israel defending itself from the atrocities of October 7th being repeated. And if you are calling for a ceasefire, you can tell yourself and you can tell the world whatever you want. But if you are calling for a ceasefire, you are on the side of Hamas. So, yes, Owen Jones can put it however he wants. He can call his lawyers, but he is supporting Hamas. There is a war. Hamas is fighting one side, and Owen Jones is fighting on the political propaganda front for them here in the West. When we talk about the enemy within, Owen Jones is a leader among the enemy within. Morgan, if you have any really quick final thoughts, now is the time. We do have the reality show coming up. I will take the few seconds to calm down, but you can go ahead.
I don't have much else to say on this, except there are moments in life where you see things which are instructive. And for people who are sometimes confused, I think, about the nature of evil, I think pay attention to Owen Jones and the way he's rationalizing for Israel, because this is what evil looks like, and this is what an evil person looks like. The inability to admit it to yourself, to have to wave it away while supporting destruction and having to do it in this kind of indirect way of calling for a ceasefire. This is what evil looks like, and pay attention to that, because then you'll see it in other situations. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, but thank you, Walter and Gail, for the super chats. Also, Christopher Smith said in the chat before that he's a bad breaker upper. That is a Seinfeld reference. If you haven't seen the episode where the guy breaks up with Elaine and then or she breaks up with him and he calls her big head, and then the rest is it's a good show. You should watch it anyway. What else is a good show? A very even better show is the reality show that is starting in a few seconds. Thank you, Morgan. We'll see you back here on the Daily Objective, not me, but somebody tomorrow, and see you on the reality show in a minute. Thanks. Bye.